You have a business goal with your presentation, and it's always linked to your audience. How should they think, act, or feel afterwards when they walk back from your presentation? And how your audience should feel. That's a very important question to ask, because then you know what to include in your presentation. If that sounds a bit vague, let's have a look at our biology. Because storytelling has the ability to produce and release the following three chemicals in the body of your audience. First, dopamine. Second, oxytocin. And third, endorphins. Let's have a look what the effects are when these chemicals are released in the body of your audience. First of all, dopamine. It increases focus, memorization, attention, and even motivation. Second, oxytocin. It increases the feeling of trust, the feeling of bonding. It's also called the trusting or love hormone. Then third, endorphins. It makes people feel relaxed, more creative, and more focused. So aren't these great benefits to have when you're presenting? Let me give you a few examples of how you can increase these chemicals in the body of your audience. First, let me increase the level of dopamine in your body. In 2017, I was working as a consultant in Barcelona for Cognizant. I really enjoyed it, and I had a side project that I was passionate about, because what I started doing is giving training to a few colleagues. I created a training from scratch and was so passionate about teaching the stuff that I had learned. And a lot is overlapping with the things we're discussing here in this course. And I was so passionate because I could see the results. I could see my colleagues grow. And then I had this wild idea. Maybe I can train the whole office. But when I had that idea, immediately some fears and doubts came up. Is the training really good enough? I just created this training from scratch based on what I have learned in the past, based on books, based on my experiences. Is this really gonna be valuable enough to teach and train the whole office, including more senior people? I wasn't so sure. So I had all these doubts in my head. But on the other hand, I wanted to really do this because I thought the idea was great. I thought it could be incredibly valuable to the office and to my own development. So I decided to walk up to the director of the office. And the director of the office was named Guillermo. I saw him sitting there with his headphones on. And that made me think, don't disturb him, he's busy. But also I was determined to make this happen. So I decided to walk up to him and I said, Guillermo, this is my idea. I would like to train the whole office. And I told him why I think it would be a good idea if I would train the whole office. But then something unexpected happened. Before I could finish my sentence, he said something that I will never forget. Because Guillermo, he said, all right, I'm gonna keep it there and not tell you what happened after. And if I did a good job right now, your levels of dopamine went up. Because you want to know what's coming next. There's kind of a cliffhanger. And that's what dopamine does. It increases your attention. It increases your focus. So how you can do this in practice is by creating a cliffhanger. But that's not the only way you can do this. Also, just by using storytelling and creating curiosity gaps, making people curious about what's coming next. That's how you increase the levels of dopamine in the body of your audience. Then the second one is oxytocin. And as I mentioned, it makes people more generous, more trusting, more bonding towards you. And it's so important that people trust you and people trust your insights. And that's why oxytocin is such a powerful chemical to get released in the body of your audience. So now you probably want to know how to do that. The best way is to use a character in your story. A character that people can relate to. In the next chapters I will explain you everything about how you can do that in your data story. But already I gave you an example in the introduction where I told about my presentation struggle with Giovanni. So if you ever been in a situation where you presented the logical insights but people did not listen, then you could probably relate to me in that situation because you have been in my shoes. And that's why the level of oxytocin was higher when I told that story. So the third chemical I was talking about were endorphins. And endorphins make people more relaxed, more focused, and more creative. So if you want to achieve that, then you need to increase the levels of endorphins. And a great way how you can do that is by including humor in your presentation. So if you include some humor, some appropriate humor in your data presentation, the level of endorphins will increase in the body of your audience. So now I presented 3 storytelling chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. And they're wonderful if you know how to use them. And how you use them is as follows. First, you choose how your audience should feel during and after your presentation. And second, you will choose the right stories to get those chemicals released in the body of your audience so that they feel a certain way.